We continue now at the top of Daf Yomi Gemara in Meseches Gittin. This is Gittin Daf 10b. The Gemara is discussing the opinion of the Mishnah that by a get isha, if you have a kusi signed on the get, and we're talking specifically about one of the edim on the get being a kusi, so it is kosher. And the Gemara wanted to know which Tana are we following, and the Gemara says we're following the Tana of Elazar, who says in general the kusim are suspect. And the reason why in our Mishnah, if you have one kusi that's signed on the get that it's kosher, is because there is a Yisrael signed underneath, and the Yisrael is essentially verifying that this kusi, as the Gemara now says, di lav de kusi chaver have it. If not for the fact that this kusi is considered like a colleague of ours, lo machsim le mekame, he wouldn't have allowed him to sign in front of him. In other words, the Yisrael is essentially verifying that this kusi is reliable. Rashi says, di lav de kusi chaver have lo have ha Yisrael michsim le kusi mekame. The Yisrael would not have allowed the kusi to sign before him if not for the fact that he was a kusi chaver. And the Gemara says, if that's the reasoning of our Mishnah, hachi, if so, afilu shar shtaros nami, then the same logic should apply by other shtaros. If a Yisrael is signed on the bottom, other shtaros should also be kosher with one aid that's a kusi. Ella amrin, and rather, what do we say by other shtaros? We say rav choshavek leman de koshesh minei. The person, whoever signed on the bottom, left a little space. Maybe there's something who has more senior. Maybe there's someone who has seniority who's going to sign above. So hachanami, but here also you should say the same thing. Rav choshavek leman de koshesh minei. Maybe he signed lower, but he didn't sign together with the kusi. He was just leaving a little space in case someone with more seniority would sign above him. Rashi says, "El al karchach time amaylo have b'shar shtars b'cheskas chavra de hakdama zu da'amrin hay Yisrael rav choshavak leman de koshesh minei sheroes o edasim Yisrael ze achosim Yisraelim zekeinim imenu." Maybe he saw there were Jews who were older than him who were possibly going to sign, so he left some space. It doesn't prove anything. V'hakusi, the kusi was also there. Ukeshachosim Yisrael ze tchila yasavar sheyachtem bal ashtar imo echad mi Yisrael has zekeinim. Now, when the person left a little space, he thought one of the Yisraelim who has seniority will sign above him. That's why he signed on the bottom of the shtar. And then the malva came along and he signed the kusi on top. And so therefore it's no proof at all that it's a kusi chaver. But here also, Gerisha name a Rav Chashavak. We could say the same thing by Gerisha, that maybe he just left a little space. It should be no proof that this is a kusi chaver. Why does this act as a proof? And the Gemara says, Amar Papa says, Zo Someris, what this proves is as follows: Eidei Haget ein chosmin zebelo zeh. That when it comes to the witnesses that sign a get, they cannot sign one without the other. And Rashi says, Zo Someris masnisin demachshar get upasul b'shar shtaris. Our Mishnah, which says by get it's kosher, but by other shtaris it's pasul. Ashminan de Eidei Haget ein chosmin ela zeh b'fnei zeh. What it shows is that the witnesses by a get specifically, they don't sign unless they're all in front of each other. Hilkach al karchach Yisrael zeh roes akusi chosim lamala. Therefore, it is clear that in our case by get, the Yisrael saw that the kusi signed above, and he signed next, he signed below. And if it was not for the fact that he was a chaver, he would not have done that. When it comes to other shtaros, the edim can sign not in front of each other. So you always have a suspicion, maybe the Yisrael signed first, but he signed lower. He left space for someone with seniority. He did not know that they were going to sign a kusi above him, and so that's why by get it's going to be kosher, and by other shtaros it will not be good. And the Gemara says, my time. So what is the reason why by get specifically they have to sign all in front of each other? Amar Ravashi says, Gezeira misham kulchem. The reason is it's a decree because of a situation of kulchem. Rashi explains, Gezeira misham kulchem. D'tanan b'pirkin de l'kamon. There's a Mishnah later on. Amar la'asara kulchem kisvu get li'ishti. Let's say a person says to 10 people, all of you, that's kulchem, all of you write a get for my wife. Echad koseh v'kulam chosmin. The halach is one writes and everybody signs. V'lo avechas mikulu have a puzzle. And if everyone does not sign, it's puzzle. To vikpei d'talia, we assume that this person was strict, that everyone should sign. That's why I said kulchem. To lo shavya gita ele b'hachi. He's saying it's not a good get unless everyone signs. Lefikach tiknu. Therefore they instituted afilu hechad lo amar kulchem. Even in a place where he doesn't say kulchem, sheyukala edim nikbatzim b'shas hachasima. That all edim have to be present, gathered around at the time of the chasima. Because of this case of kulchem, that applies specifically by get. And the Gemara continues, Gufa, returning to what we said above. Amar Elazar says, Lo hichshiru bo el eid echad kusi bilvad. When we say it's kosher, when a kusi signs the get, that's only if one of the edim is a kusi. And the Gemara says, My kamashmalim, what was Elazar teaching us? Tanina, we already learned that in our Mishnah. The Mishnah said that clearly, Kol get sheyeshel of aid kusi pasal. It said any get that has an aid kusi is pasal. That's singular. Sounds like just one aid. What's Rebbe Elazar adding? The Gemara says, Imi mas nisan have. I mean, if we only had our Mishnah, so I would have thought, afilu trei nami. Really, even 2 kusim would be fine. And the reason why it says 1 is it's to tell you the other direction, that by other shtaras, even 1 kusi is going to be a problem, is not good. Kamash Malan, so that's what Rebbe Elazar is teaching us, know that when it comes to allowing it by a get isha, we only say it's allowed if there's 1, but if it's 2, that is a problem. And the Gemara says utrei lo, but is that really true? Is 2 people a problem? V'akatani, but it also says in the Mishnah, Ma'asav Evil lifnei Rabban Gamliel l'kfar usnai get isha. There was an incident where they brought before Rabban Gamliel to kfar usnai a get isha. V'hayu eidav eidei kusim v'hechsher, and there were 8. It says in plural, there were kusim that signed, and he said it was kosher. So Amar Abaya says tani eido. You should actually teach in the Mishnah. It's not eidav in plural. It's eido. It's witness, and it really does mean singular. Even the end of the Mishnah is only talking about 1 kusi. Rava Amar Rava says liolam trei. Really, there are 2 witnesses at the end of the Mishnah, and 2 kusim are still okay. Rabbi Gamliel miflag polig, and Rabbi Gamliel is actually arguing on the first time of the Mishnah. On the first time of the Mishnah, there are words missing in the Mishnah, and you should read it as follows: Rabbi Gamliel machshir b'shnayim. Rabbi Gamliel allows it even with 2 kusim. Umaysanami, there was an incident like this as well. Shevil if Rabbi Gamliel kfar usnai gerisha, that they brought in front of Rabbi Gamliel to kfar usnai gerisha vayu eidav eidei kusim, and the witnesses on the get were kusim v'hechsher, and he said it was kosher. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Kol hashtaros ha'olim berchos shel ovdei kochavim, all documents that are made in the courts of the non-Jews, af al pi shechosmeim ovdei kochavim, even though they're signed by idol worshippers, even though they're signed by non-Jews, kesherim, they're kosher, chutz mi gitei nashim v'shechrurei avodim. Except for gitei nashim and shechrurei avodim, those are no good when they are signed by the ovdei kochavim. Rabbi Shimon says, af elu ksherin, even when it comes to gitei nashim and shechrurei avodim, it's also kosher. Lo huzkru ela bizman shenasu behedyot. We only say it's a problem when non-Jews are signing if it's made behedyot, meaning to say that it was made not in a court, but if it's made in an official court of the non-Jews, it is still going to be kosher. And the Gemara says kapasuk vatani. So the Mishnah seems to be learning a halacha that's broad in its scope. Loshna mecher, loshna matana. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a bill of sale, a document that's for sale. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a document that's in order to give over a gift. In all of these situations, it says that it's going to be kosher, again, except for gitei nashim and shechrei avadim, but otherwise it's kosher. And so the Gemara now says, B'shlama mecher, I understand when you're talking about a document that's drawn up for a sale, so mechiyav zuzi kamai hu dekana. So the kinyan really happens through the money. When he gives the money, that creates the kinyan. The shtar is not creating a kinyan. Ushtar raya bi'almahu, the shtar is just evidence that the sale took place. And so we understand that a shtar that's made in the courts of the non-Jews, that's just a raya, that should be effective. The lo yoiv zuzi kamayu, if not for the fact that they saw the money given, so lo havim mar nafshara, they wouldn't sign such a get and make themselves look bad. It's obvious that this should serve as good evidence. The chosvin le shtar, they're not going to make themselves look bad and write a shtar on a sale that never took place. Elamatana, but if you're talking about a gift, so the halacha by a gift is b'mai kakani. So how is the acquisition being made? What creates the kinyan? Lav v'hai shtar, isn't the shtar creating the kinyan? V'hai shtar, but this shtar, which is signed by non-Jews, chasba b'almu, is just a mere shard. It's not worth anything in terms of halacha. It shouldn't be considered as a shtar, and so it shouldn't be able to create a kinyan. And the Gemara answers, Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says, Dino de Malchusa Dina. There's a principle of Dino de Malchusa Dina, the law of the land is the law, and therefore here it is able to affect the kinyan. V'ibay same, if you want, I could say another answer. Tani chutz mikigit nashim. You should change the gears of the Mishnah. What the Mishnah really teaches is when it says chutz migit nashim v'shechrei avadim, it should be chutz mikigit nashim, with the exception of anything that is like a get isha. Shtar matana is also like a get isha because a shtar matana creates a kinyan, just like a get isha creates a kinyan, and therefore the Mishnah is saying that a shtar matana would not be good. And the Gemara continues at the 2 dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Shimon Omer afei luksher v'chulu. Rabbi Shimon says even gitei nashim shechrei avadim, it's also if it's made in the archos, if it's made in the courts of the non-Jews, and it's signed by non-Jews. And the Gemara says, V'ala b'nei krisus ninu, how could it be kosher? But Jews are not b'nei krisus, they're not part of the halachas of Kiddushin and Gittin. How can they sign a get and we allow that get to be kosher? Amar Rabbi Zeir says, Yar Rabbi Shimon l'shitaso shel Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Shimon holds like Rabbi Elazar, Do Amar Eidei Misira Karti. Rabbi Elazar says, Eidei Misira Karti. You have over here Jews who are witnessing the giving of the get, and that is good enough to make it kosher, and therefore if it's drawn up in the courts of the non-Jews and signed by the non-Jews, it will not be a problem. But the Gemara asks, V'amar Rabbi Abba, but didn't Rabbi Abba say, Mod Rabbi Elazar b'mezuyaf mitochu shapasul? That Rabbi Elazar admits that if it's mezuyaf mitochu, if it's forged within, so then that's a problem. It's going to be disqualified. Rashi says, Mod Rabbi Elazar b'mezuyaf mitochu diafagav dam Rabbi Elazar get shein alav edim kasher. Even though Rabbi Elazar says a get does not need to have any witnesses because you have edim mesira, you have edim who witness the giving over of the get. Dafka ein alav edim. That's only true if it's a get that has no witnesses. Aval yesh bo edim psulim. But let's say there are edim there and they're signed on the get and they're disqualified witnesses. Pasal midrabanan. The get would actually be pasal on a drabanan level. Dil mokasi lemimser vapayu mismachalai. Like we said, maybe you'll end up relying on these witnesses. You'll end up giving it in front of these witnesses, and that could be a problem. So there should be a psul midrabanan over here. How could Rabbi Shimon say that it's kosher? And the Gemara answers, Hacha b'mayaskin, and here what are we dealing with? And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph.